I'm going to run us through the steps on making this infinity fold. I'm going to show you real quickly how we go through it, and then I'll do another video on some of the technical things. But the first thing we want to take a look at here is the imagery that we want to be using for the piece. So remember, this is going to have 4 different faces to it. So you have to come up with 4 different designs. So for my designs I came up with, one face is going to start off with this image of Bob Dylan that Milton Glaser did. So this will be my first image. The next thing I want us to take a look at then would be this little quote that I have by him. It says, "The design is to communicate clearly by whatever means you can control or master." Now my third image is going to be, it's going to be just a crop of this beautiful little album cover artwork that Milton Glaser did. And then my fourth image is going to be Milton at the end here, and it'll be like a closer. It'll feel like we're at the very end. So those will be the images that I'm going to be using. Now let's walk through how we put this thing together. So the first thing I would do is I would create your template. Now remember, your template for this infinity fold can be any size you want, but it has to be made up of squares. And the squares should be 4 squares across and 8 squares down. So as long as you have those dimensions right, it can be whatever size you want it to be. Remember, this heavy line is where we're going to cut it, and then these little dots are where we're going to glue it. Now, what I would really suggest to do is put one of these together just as a template and fold it and glue it and see how this is going to come together, because it's going to give you a really clear idea of what these faces are going to look like. So my first image is going to take this space. This is the very first thing we're going to see, face 1. And it's going to take all 16 of these squares that we have right here. And this is the easiest one to do because it's just a square, 16 squares, no cuts, no messing around with it at all. So this is our very first start off place. All right. Then the next face is going to be face 2. And this is where I'm going to have that quote. And that's going to go in here. Now, to make this align correctly, we're going to have to flip it upside down and cut it in half and then switch these sides. So if you look right here, this one on the top, this is the top part of my quote. This is the second part of the quote. 4 squares each of these. And then, I've got to arrange them upside down like this. The next face is going to be this, and it's going to go through 16 squares right through the middle. No, 8 squares right through the middle, but this is going to go horizontally. And so I'm going to have this split in half, because now we look at our image and the left side is actually we have to move to the right, and the right side we have to move to the left to get them to align correctly. If you just follow along with this, I know it seems really confusing, but if you follow this, it'll start to make some sense. Then we have some shared spaces that are going to show up on both face 2 and face 3. And they're going to be right here. And they're going to be aligned like this. Okay? The last face of our design is going to be face 4. And here we're going to take the image and we're going to split it in half again, 8 squares on the top, 8 squares on the bottom. And now we don't have to flip anything around, we just have to separate them from each other. So this is exactly how our design is going to be configured. So if I take my images here and then I apply them to this, it'll make perfect sense once it's all assembled and we put it together. It'll fold up and be correct. All right. So let me show you exactly what this looks like in real life once I make this into a folded infinity fold. So right here is exactly where my face 1 is going to go. This is my picture of Bob Dylan that Milton Glaser did. 2 will be right here. This is my quote. And you'll see that I've split the quote. This is the top part is the first part of the quote, and the bottom is now the second part of the quote. So if I align it like this, everything is going to work. 3 is going to be this image. That's going to go right through the middle. And here, I remember I've taken this image and I've split it. So if we look at my image here, the orange-faced girl is on the left, and the magenta-faced girl is on the right. Now if we look, we've split it in half, and we've switched those two halves. So now magenta is on the left and orange is on the right. And then our last panel will look like this. And here I've taken that photograph of Milton, I cut it in half, so we have one horizontal at the top and one horizontal at the bottom, and then I've just separated them. I've just stretched them apart and placed them where they're supposed to go. So when the template is all gone and I'm ready to print, it's going to look just like this. Okay, so this is the first part of the video. The next, I'm going to go into how to actually make your splits in your photographs or images or type so that they will align and you can place them around and move them where you want them to be.